So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this session. My name is Smita Hashim. I'm the Global Product Management Lead for Chrome OS ecosystem products, which is devices, as well as Android applications. So I'm going to be, today me, along with my colleague Shahid and Louis, we'll be talking to you about Android apps for Chromebooks. So before I get started, wanted to understand a little bit more about you. So how many people are familiar with the Chrome operating system? It's everyone. And how many of you, I see some Chromebooks in the room, or I see some people using them, but how many of you have used a Chromebook yourself? Okay, great. Wow, this is a great crowd. We love this crowd. And then how many people here are actually decision makers for their businesses in terms of what would be deployed? App developers? Do we have any app developers over here? Okay, yeah. So it's a mix, and we will be going over a variety of topics with you, and so it's and we would love to take any questions in the end. So we should go over this pretty fast because most of the audience seems familiar with the Chrome operating system. But as you know, Chrome OS is Google's productivity operating system. It's designed for the large screens, and it's designed with a few guiding principles in mind. So first of this is speed. So if you have used Chromebooks, you know that they boot up in 8 to 10 seconds. So they're really fast. And that was a fundamental design consideration for the team right from the beginning. The other part about Chromebooks is they're very, very simple. So if you get a new Chromebook, you are up and running on it, if you have never used a Chromebook before, literally in a few minutes. So very easy to use for users, but also very, very easy for administrators to administrate. So, and I think probably a lot of people know that as well. In terms of security, security is built into Chromebooks at every layer. So starting from the hardware to the operating system to the application layer, all the applications are sandboxed, which means that for your Chrome devices, you can think of it as antivirus is automatically built in. You never have to worry about security patches and downloads and things like that. And last is that shareability is inherent to the design of Chromebooks. So you can literally grab any Chromebook, and it's yours as soon as you sign in within a few seconds. And that's a feature which schools love. So students can grab any Chromebooks and use them, and increasingly, businesses as well. So the users have actually responded really well to these design principles. And what we are seeing is that in United States, every school day, 30,000 Chromebooks are activated every day. If you look at the aggregate data, 58% of devices sold in US schools last year were Chromebooks. So it's more Chromebooks than all other devices combined. And Chromebooks adoption is also growing in international markets. So FutureSource recently announced just a few days ago that Chromebooks were also the best-selling devices in Sweden. So Chrome has been doing very well in education, but beyond education, and this is, I think, mainly a business audience, we are also seeing increase in popularity of Chromebooks. So in retail, which is consumers buying Chromebooks from Best Buy, Amazon, there was a 20% growth last year in United States, and this is in a declining market, so Chrome continues to be the bright spot, which is growing. In businesses, according to IDC, 800,000 Chromebooks were bought by businesses last year. And thanks to our users and the adoption which we are seeing, Chrome OS was the second most popular productivity operating system in the United States for all of 2016. And another interesting data point which IDC informed us about, they ran their Futurescape survey, and it said by 2018, 25% of Fortune 500 companies are going to have some form of IT-supported Chrome devices in their organization. So in case you are wondering, what are the organizations? These are some of the organizations who are using Chromebooks or Chrome devices who have given us permission to use their names and share them with you. So you can see they span a whole range. I don't know if anyone is seeing their own company on this one, but you can see they range from retailers to healthcare to financial services. So it's a very good mix of businesses that are using Chrome devices at this point. So let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk a little bit more about Chrome devices at work and how are businesses using these devices. So we are actually seeing a lot of usage of Chrome devices by businesses to expand their use of computing. So we are seeing them use Chrome devices to take computing where they didn't have computing before. So an example of it is we are seeing businesses use devices for their employees are using it every day, and oftentimes they're using it in a shared setting. So this is some of the places where we are seeing this is in retail backrooms. We're seeing it on manufacturing floors. We are seeing it in assisted living centers. We are seeing it in libraries. We are seeing it in government facilities. So if you think about it, this use case actually is kind of analogous to schools, where businesses want to get computing to more employees. They can share the device. It's very shareable. It's very simple. It's very easy for IT administrators to manage. So another area where we are beginning to see a lot of Chrome usage is digital signs and kiosks. So kiosks, an example of that would be you go to a hotel lobby and you want to check in, right? So that is running a single application. Or an example could also be a public session, where, again, if you think about a hotel, they want to have a device where any guest can go and use it, and they can use it for browsing, they can do some web-based email. So it's a shared device for the guests to use. The other one is digital signs. So in digital signs, again, we are seeing different types of usage. So if you look at digital signs, we are seeing, for example, restaurant chains use it to show their menus. So it's using a single application, and you can order from these. And because these devices are so easy to manage, and you can do all of the management remotely, it's very cost-effective for businesses to do this. Another example which we are seeing is retailers using promotional video. So at your retail sales point, you are running promotional video. And again, you can push that remotely. You can manage it. You can ping these devices to see how they are doing. So we are beginning to see a lot of different usage, and with Android applications coming to these Chrome devices, the number of users which you can get from them is increasing. So you can start getting your favorite Android applications on these devices, and we will be showing you some examples of those applications. Shahid will be doing that. But in addition to that, another thing which we are seeing is that a lot of businesses actually develop custom Android applications already. So and currently, they can use those applications either on the phones or on the tablets. And some of the example applications, it could be an employee scheduling application. It could be an inventory management application. It could be a charting application for patients. So now what we are seeing is these businesses start to test these applications on their Chromebooks. So now from a usage point of view, they have the same application running all the way from their phones to tablets to laptops. So it provides a very consistent experience for their users and their employees. So Chrome comes in multiple form factors. So Chrome devices come in multiple form factors. We have the Chromebooks, which are the laptops. We have Chrome boxes, which are the mini desktops. Chrome base, which is the all-in-one. And also the Chrome bit, which is a small stick which you can attach to your monitor to create a digital sign very cost-effectively. So depending on your application, you can choose the right form factor, which is best for your business. And all of these devices can be managed from the same Chrome device management console. And here is a sampling of some of the devices we have in market today. So this is a sampling. This is not all of the devices. So as you can see, almost all global OEMs are building Chrome devices, whether it's ASUS, Lenovo, Acer, HP, AOPEN, Samsung. So there's a variety of OEMs who are building these devices and bringing them to market. So you have a choice of OEMs. The other thing, if you are, if you're not familiar with it, there is a whole range of form factors. So not only do you have clamshells, you also have reversible or convertible devices. You also have signage devices, which is the A-Open Chromebox Mini or the A-Open Chromebooks, which, you have the Asus Chromebook, which is the stick itself. And last year, we also launched several devices specifically for work. So we have the HP Chromebook 13, we have the Lenovo ThinkPad 13, there's Acer Chromebook 14. So there's a whole range of devices. So Chrome has a very, there's a lot of variety to choose from, depending on your application and use case. I mentioned the Chrome Management Console before, but it comes with a lot of different it comes with full management capabilities. And on the devices also, I should have said it, if you look at a device portfolio, we are continually expanding the device portfolio. So we have evolved the device portfolio recently to add devices which are optimized for Android applications. So same for the Chrome Management Console. The Chrome Management Console also keeps evolving to add new functionality. And some of the new functionality which we have added is the ability to manage Android applications for your Chrome devices from the same management console. So if you have legacy infrastructure, and this is a lot of the work which team has done over the last year and a half, then that legacy infrastructure works very well with Chrome devices. If you have, you can get app compatibility. You obviously have the web applications. Android applications are coming. But we have a variety of virtualization providers: Citrix, VMware, Amazon Workspaces. Identity. So in terms of identity, single sign-on is supported. And again, through a variety of providers. So Okta is one of them. Ping is another one. Peripherals, we added support for USB-C docking last year. And in terms of printers, you can support printing in two different ways, either the cloud print or through there's a Chrome app through which you can, HP Chrome app, through which 100 million plus HP printers can be used along with your Chrome devices. And then in terms of connectivity, we also provide a variety of providers using which businesses can connect securely. And some of the examples of those are Palo Alto Networks and Dell SonicWall. So if you have legacy infrastructure and you want to deploy Chromebooks in that context, please contact us, and we are happy to work with you on that. So before we talked about Android apps, we wanted to give you context on Chrome overall, and we also wanted to talk about Chrome devices for work. For the rest of this discussion, we are going to be focusing on Android apps for Chromebooks. So we are going to talk about a few things. First, we are going to talk about our design approaches and what kind of design choices did we make so that it'll be a consistent and good experience which adds to the strengths of the products so users get the best possible experience. So we'll talk about some of the devices which have been built recently, which are optimized or which are designed with the Play Store in mind, with the Google Play Store in mind. And then we are going to be showing some app examples. We are going to be doing a demo, show you some sample apps. And then we are going to end with tips for optimizing your Android apps on Chromebooks. So that's a run-through of what we will be talking about. So let's talk a little bit about the design choices which we made. So Chrome OS is Google's productivity operating system. Because it's a productivity operating system, users want to be able to multitask. They want to be able to use multiple windows. They want to be able to resize their windows. One of the things which I think users really love about Chromebooks is it comes with a Chrome browser, the desktop Chrome browser with support for full extensions, tabs, productivity. So the Chrome browser is there, so you can still use all of your web applications. But the way we have brought the Android applications to Chromebooks is you still get multiple windows with your Android applications. So you could be running different Android applications in different windows. You can resize the Android application depending on the capability of the application. So from a user, so the design itself is focused on ensuring that users can be productive and they can do multitasking on these large screens. Manageability, I think we have already touched on that. We made sure that manageability was included. So the simplicity continues for administrators. then if you look at if you think about Google Play, and if you think about the billions of users who are using Android applications and Android phones today, we also wanted to make sure that they had a consistent experience when they started using when they started using the Android applications on their Chrome devices. So Android applications are touch optimized, but Chromebooks have different capabilities. In addition to, some of them have touchscreens, some of them don't, but they have capabilities like you have the trackpad. So just as you would use your finger, now you have a precision touch trackpad, so you can use your trackpad in order to navigate the touch elements on these applications, and you can click on them. So for a user who's used to doing that on his phone, when they come over here, it's a very natural motion for them to start using their trackpad. Of course, they get their familiar applications. The other thing is, if you look at the Android applications, most Android applications are designed with offline in mind. So when I'm on an airplane and I'm using my Android phone, obviously I use the Google Nexus or Google Pixel phones. So at that point, I can work. I can do a lot. I can read books. I can play games. I can listen to music. I can do a variety of things, and it all works when I'm disconnected and when I'm on the airplane. And I can do all of that on my Android application with my Chromebook as well. So that's very good for Chromebooks, but that's also really consistent from a user point of view. The other thing is the way we have brought the Android applications or the Google Play Store to Chromebooks is that it is a native implementation, and it supports a wide set of Android APIs. So from a user perspective, you're going to get good performance, and you're going to get a consistent UI experience. So again, we try to just go after the design in a way that it's a great experience for people who are used to being productive on their Chrome devices, but also for the users who are used to using Android applications on their Google Play Store. They also get a very positive and a really good and consistent experience. So in terms of what kind of applications are available, almost all Android applications are eligible for Chrome devices. Some exceptions are going to be applications which require special sensors. So if your application requires a GPS and a Chromebook does not have GPS, we'll filter that out. In terms of how users are going to access, so the application, so remember I said Chromebooks are very shareable, which means any user can sign into any Chrome device and they get that same consistent experience. So the Android applications are also tied to a user account, which means that any Chromebook, if I go from this Chromebook to this Chromebook, it will download my Android applications and I'll be able to use them. And for those who have purchased Android applications on another device, the same purchased application is going to work on your Chrome devices. A little bit more details about the app management part and how the Chrome device management experience is. So it's centralized application management. So as an administrator, you're going to approve all Android applications that can be used in your managed environment for your managed Chromebooks. So it's a central opt-in model. You approve all of them. And then in terms of curating the applications for the users, it can be done in two different ways. You can say that you allow your users to install applications, which means it's your user's choice. If they want, they can install that application. Or you can push the applications to the users, so it's default on their device when they open up their device and when they log in. And so again, as an administrator, you have full control, and you should be able to manage all of your Android applications in a way that is very consistent, and it's also flexible. And the unit is at the OU level, which means however you have set up your user groups is going to work in terms of managing your Android application. So if you're a business, if you have multiple locations, different functions, you want to set up Android applications in different ways for these user groups, then you can do that using the Chrome administrative capabilities. So one of my colleagues gave a talk yesterday, and as part of that, she announced that Android Kiosks apps are also coming to Chrome OS. It'll come with the Chrome OS 57 release, which is literally in a few days, which means that on your kiosk, if you're using Chrome as a kiosk device, which means you're running a single application in an immersive mode, you will be able to also run Android apps there. And some of the examples of Android apps, one of the example is, I think Hyatt has a room control app. So that's a Kiosk app which can run on your device. So you could set up a Chrome device if you have an equivalent app in your hotel room, and you could just use the same Android application. Another one which is being mentioned is Crowd DJ, which is for managing nightclubs, so for those who are in that business. So again, we wanted to make sure that Android apps are supported for all form factors and all use cases. So we have that for the general user use case, but also for the kiosk use cases. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to talk to you about about the new Chromebooks, which have been designed with Google Play in mind. So as I said before, we continue to work with the OEM partners, and we pretty much work with them continuously to evolve the range of Chromebooks. And as part of the Google Play Store coming to Chromebooks, we wanted to make sure that we had the right devices, or we were working on devices which can really delight the users in terms of the Android application experience. So at CES this year, along with Samsung, we announced Samsung Chromebook Pro and Samsung Chromebook Plus. So these are devices, and I have one of these here. And we do have, by the way, a few other devices if you have time later to take a look at it. So this is the Samsung Chromebook Plus. So it's a convertible, so you can use it. You can use it as a notebook. The screen, and you can come check it out later, it's a beautiful Quad HD screen. This actually has a built-in pen. So you can, so it has a built-in pen which you can take out. So now you're able to write on these devices as well. The other design choice which we made is it's actually a 3:2 screen. What this means is that the screen is squarer, but that means you can use it well as a tablet in any orientation. So, so those are some of the optimizations done on the hardware, and it's pretty thin and light. So you can come and check it out. This comes with the Google Play Store right out of the box, which means that you get Android applications and you can do more things with this device as soon as you get it to your house or to your business. And of course, it has all of the goodness of the Chrome operating system. So it has the speed, security, simplicity, shareability, and then now a lot more offline capabilities with the Android applications. So in terms of Chromebook Pro and Plus, which are the two devices which were announced, so Chromebook Plus was the one I showed you. It's already in market. And Chromebook Plus, it's powered by an ARM OP1 processor. Chromebook Pro will be coming to market in April. It's going to be a black color device. It's very professional looking. And then also, it's going to have the Intel Core M3 processor. So it'll be in market in April, so but Plus is in market right now. So I also wanted to point out that we have been working with the OEM partners to build rugged devices, mainly for education use. So Acer, Asus, HP, all of them announced devices recently for rugged devices, which are convertibles and which have stylus support. These are Chrome devices, and again, I have some of these. I have a couple of them here. So you can see, again, you can check them out later. This is the Acer device, and you can see it's pretty rugged. This is the HP device, and this is also a rugged device. So we expect schools to start using these devices. We are seeing a lot of good interest. And then again, these are convertible, and they come with pen. So, so in terms of the pen technology, we have, you can see the Samsung device had pen built in. These are a couple of pens. And again, if you're a school, you can, use different types of pens. The pen technology which we are using is EMR, which means that the pen itself is very affordable. It's not an it's not an active pen. You don't need to charge it. So, which we think should be really positive. And while this is mainly designed for education, we are hearing some interesting use case from businesses as well. So one of the use case which we are hearing is for back rooms or for retailers, for people who want to do the inventory management. They are interested in devices like this because they also have one interesting new feature which we didn't have on Chromebooks before. They actually have a second camera, which is on the cPanel, which means that you could use these devices. So, so if I could just go with them, and there's a camera over here, so I could take photos of storerooms, and I could record that. So So we are starting to diversify the range of devices. Obviously, these are the first set of devices which have come in. Again, depending on your application, we are trying to go more into, you can use it as a tablet, you can use it as a PC, you can have different forms of input, you can touch, you can write, you can obviously type on it, and so those are, and they will continue to evolve in the future. So with that, I'm going to invite my colleague Shahid, and Shahid is going to come and talk to you about Android apps and give you some demos.
OK, thanks, Smita. My name's Shahid. I'm a product manager on Chrome OS. I have a rather selfish question, actually, to begin with. So those of you who have used Chromebooks in the past or are using Chromebooks, if you could raise your hand. Okay, oh, that's so good. Does there anyone do you have like Chromebooks in the room? I spot a few here and there. If you have one, could you hold it up? That's awesome. OK, thank you. Thank you very much for using Chromebooks. We're very excited. And all of us on the team who work on this stuff are super excited when we see stuff being used by folk like you. So thanks for that. OK, so we're going to talk a little bit more about Android apps. So Android apps coming onto Chrome OS. First of all, let's start with Chromebooks. Chromebooks, as you know, already have this best-in-class web experience. They came with Chrome baked in from the very beginning. Chrome, now the most popular browser in the world. And bringing the Google Play Store onto Chrome OS has let our users do a little bit more. So from design to team communications to simple but critical tasks like note-taking. So now you can use those apps as part of your desktop workflow. So rather than having to pull out a phone and refer to something on there and have multiple devices, you can just Alt-Tab between apps which you're used to seeing on mobile, now on desktop. So integrating it part into the same workflow that you're already used to. And in fact, we've been already working with a ton of key developers to ensure that the apps that you're starting to see on Chrome OS are optimized for Chrome OS. So some of those are internal teams, but many of them are external. And we're finding that as we talk to more and more external teams, that they're really excited about extending out their products, their existing code bases, into the desktop environment. Now, of course, that environment's a little bit different to mobile. On mobile, you have a screen that's this big, and the primary mode of interaction is touch. But on the desktop, the screen is this big, and the primary mode of interaction is keyboard and touchpad or mouse. Now, that means that the type of work that you're going to be doing with that app can be different. The amount of information that comes to you on a screen that big can be a lot denser. The speed of input with a keyboard can be a lot faster than it is with touch. And the accuracy of your pointing with a touchpad can be much better too. So that means that the types of activities you can do in those apps on desktop can be different. So that's one aspect. But also, the business models can be different too. So the really simplistic example is, on mobile, it's very usual to sell an app for $1, $2 at a time, and having price points higher than that is unusual. It's unusual. So on desktop, however, a price point of $200 to $300, for example, that's pretty normal. So that different type of revenue model for the app and that different type of interaction modes for the app has brought us into a really exciting new era for Android apps. So that's great for developers, and it's also great for users who are starting to see the Google Play Store already coming into multiple Chromebooks, along with the millions of apps that brings. So rather than just talk about this, we're going to show you the apps in action. So if we could just switch to the Chromecast, please. OK. Can we switch over to the Chromecast view? That'd be great. OK, let me see if, OK, I need to recast. OK, should be good. OK, perfect, thank you. OK, so here we have an example developer that we've been working very closely with, Slack. So I'm sitting in a room with a colleague, and my colleague is reminding me that I need to dress a little bit differently today. So I usually wear hoodies, but today it's dressed up a little bit since we're in an enterprise conference. And I can reply back and say, thanks. Hopefully this is okay. Okay, and that's an example of like an interaction that we take for granted on desktop. I can type a message and hit enter, and it sends the message back. Now, on mobile, that's a really unusual interaction because there's often no keyboard attached to those mobile devices. And so that's an example of the kind of thing that an app developer will need to keep an eye out for when we move on to desktop. And my colleague Luis will talk a little bit about that shortly. But in this case, I can hit enter, and rather than doing a carriage return, it'll just send the message. So if we could switch to the camera, please. Thanks. So now I'm going to show you another utility. So as well as these kinds of apps that you're used to, like Slack, all of the utility apps that you're used to on mobile are also coming to Android. So as Smita mentioned earlier, this device, the Samsung Chromebook Plus, has a stylus built into it. And as I eject it, you'll see there's a menu that pops up on screen that shows me some options for the stylus. So if we could switch back to the Chromecast, please. Great, thanks. So this menu has just some quick tools in, like, for example, a laser pointer mode, so I can highlight things for presentations, like we're doing right now. But I'm just going to turn that off. So I'm going to switch to another app that we've been working with closely, Evernote. So I'm going to convert this device from the laptop form factor into the tablet form factor, so I can do things like handwriting much more easily. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to add a new handwriting note. So imagine I'm in a meeting, and I just need to take a few quick notes. So I'm going to take notes for next, OK? And we're going to have a blazer and shoes, not trainers, which is what I usually wear. And because I'm doing this digitally, I can do select, reposition things to be where I want, erase, restore, etc., all of those kinds of functions. So that's great. But now, because I'm on a convertible device, the Samsung Chromebook, I can switch out to see this same note. I'm just going to head back into it here. There we go. OK. And I can actually add just typed notes onto this if I want to, because my handwriting, as you can see, is pretty atrocious. If I have a couple of minutes after this meeting, I can just convert these notes into typed text and then send them out to my colleagues afterwards, something they can actually read. So that's just a couple of the apps that we wanted to show you that we have live here. If we just head back to the slides, please. Thanks. But we also wanted to showcase a few other apps very briefly. So these Android apps aren't just about Google Apps. Third-party apps like you've seen, and one of the key non-Google apps that we've had requests for is Skype and Skype for Business. So that's already available in the Play Store, and you can go and install that and use it in the same as you would on your mobile devices. Evernote, which syncs across devices, so you can start exactly where you left off. So as in this case, I can now pull up my phone, which is already logged into the same account, and add on to that same note or start a new one, and that'll be synchronized across all of these devices. Slack for efficient team communication. And rich notifications. So inside that app, if I get more messages from my colleagues about for a chat room that I'm in, that rich notification will pop up in the same way that it would as if I was on a mobile device. A ton of Google apps, like, for example, Google Calendar. And the advantage here is that they work offline. So you can check into and read all of that data in the same way you would as if you're on mobile. And for those of you in the education space, and just a quick show of hands, who here is, okay, fantastic, thank you. So for those of you, Play brings a host of education apps to Chrome OS. Those apps are easy to manage in the same way that for those of you who have Chromebook deployments in education, you're already used to. So admins can push those Android apps to compatible devices just very simply through the Chrome Management Console. It is genuinely very easy. We'll have Q&As at the end if that's OK, but thanks. And it's true sort of turnkey app deployment. The other thing we wanted to just call out is that Adobe recently announced with us at the BET conference that there's a forthcoming release of updated Adobe Android apps that are optimized for Chrome OS, specifically for education. That'll help students harness their creativity and develop key creative skills that they can use as they progress through their career. So that's a little bit about some of the apps that already exist. But now I'd like to turn over to my colleague Luis, who's going to tell you a little bit more how you can optimize your apps.
Right. Thanks, Shahid. So my name is Luis Hector Chavez. I'm one of the engineers in the team that made it possible to run Android applications on Chrome OS. So this section of the talk is actually aimed at the app developers in the room, which I think is just one. And it's about the best practices so you can provide a much better Android experience on Chromebooks. So first of all, we are running a fully CTS and GTS compliant Android system on Chrome OS. This means that most applications can run in Chrome OS without any modifications on your part. There's absolutely no code changes required. But as Smita mentioned earlier, most Android applications are optimized for touch and a very different physical form factor and device model. So you may still want to optimize your application so it runs even better on Chromebooks. There is a very wide variety of Chromebook form factors. Most of them will have a physical keyboard and a trackpad. Some of them will support touch on the screen. And others will support alternative input mechanisms like the stylus we showed earlier. While we were testing applications, a lot of them were already working great with all of these input mechanisms. Still, not all of these applications did. So you need to make sure that you can fall back gracefully whenever users are interacting with your app using a keyboard, a touchpad, or even a physical mouse, instead of touch or stylus. One other thing you can consider is that given that most Chromebooks will have a physical keyboard, productivity applications can become even more productive by adding some features like hotkey support. In general, Chromebooks support less amount of sensors than mobile devices. For instance, most Android developers are used to having a physical GPS sensor on their devices. Chromebooks are not equipped with one, but you can still get course location information thanks to the use of Wi-Fi, which works OK for most situations. Chromebooks also have partial support for other sensors, like accelerometers and gyroscopes. For an exhaustive list of which sensors we do support on Chromebooks and the capabilities in which we support them, please visit developer.android.com for the full list. Another thing that differentiates Chromebooks from other Android devices is that the screen is much larger and wider in its default orientation. You'll have a lot more screen real estate available now, so it's better if you make the best use of it as possible. Make sure your application can leverage the full width of the device instead of constraining yourself to a narrow strip of content in the middle, like we see on the pictures here. One of the top sources of unexpected behavior of Android apps on Chromebooks is due to the screen being a lot larger than expected. So please make sure to take this into account when developing your app. Using backup and restore effectively is also very important. As my colleagues have mentioned earlier, one of the best features about Chromebooks is that users can just grab any machine from a pool of shared devices, log into that Chromebook, and all their applications will be there. Having said that, we as Chrome OS, don't support synchronizing the app's data. That's something you as app developers need to do. In order to do that, please make sure you use Android's default backup and restore APIs. That'll make your users way more happy and productive. One caveat is that local storage on the devices is not infinite. So if too many users log into one device, at some point we'll need to evict some of the older accounts together with our local storage. So please take this into account. Chromebooks are currently shipping with Marshmallow APIs, but you need to make sure to plan to move to Nougat as soon as possible, today if it's a possibility, since several things will improve as soon as you move to Nougat. And we will be shipping Nougat later this year as well for Chromebooks. The most important thing is that if you add support for it, your applications will be able to resize arbitrarily instead of being constrained to just one or two orientations. You'll be able to make your applications feel more natural with the rest of the operating system. Other APIs you'll be able to leverage by switching to Nougat are drag and drop across applications and mouse cursor APIs. This will improve the desktop experience significantly. So by being ready for Nougat, you make sure that your application will leverage these APIs as soon as we convert the Chromebooks. And with that, back to Smita.
Okay, thanks, Luis and Shahid. So this wraps up our presentation. So some of the things we went over, we talked a little bit about the Chrome operating system, Chrome devices for work, some of the design approaches we took, devices designed for Google Play Store. We talked about Android apps, demos, some showcase, and tips for optimizing. So these are some of the resources which are available for you to explore more. Optimizing apps for Chromebooks, Chromebooks with Android applications. So this tells which Chrome devices will be getting the Android applications or the Google Play Store, which ones already have it. And then also articles on how do you manage Android applications on Chromebooks. If you search, this will pretty much be the top articles which are going to pop up. So, so feel free to look for these and get more information. Thank you very much.
Thank you.